Hello and welcome to your award-winning The Reasons I'm Broke podcast, bringing you the reasons we're broke every week through news and headlines ranging from comics, movies, TV, video games, and more. I am Daniel, and today we are going through sector number 463 with the next co-host for this week. It is Nick from Buds, Bros, and Superheroes, which is another podcast, another weekly podcast, which if you enjoy the things we cover on this show, then you will like Buds, Bros, and Superheroes. Welcome back to the co-host seat.
Well, I thank you very much for having me. I always enjoy getting to come and talk to you, so it's been a pleasure so far, and it's going to be a great episode.
We were talking a little bit off mic, and you're recovering right now from a cold or a flu. What's going on?
Yeah, I definitely think it was a head cold. You know, it was right where my sinuses are, so right to the right and left of my nose, and then right above my eyes and my forehead. Felt like a Cro-Magnon man, you know, as if that shit just filled up with whatever it does, and it was bad. It's been a rough week, but I feel like I'm finally kind of coming out of it right now, even.
You had mentioned on your latest episode that when you get high but you're sick, or when you smoke weed and you're sick at the same time, that it almost doesn't affect you. Like there's no effect on it. And did you even try to smoke any while you were sick this time?
Yeah, that's a weird thing about me, and it's been happening for as long as I can remember smoking. Like I think that whatever it is that fills up my head also catches the smoke of sorts. It doesn't actually go to my lungs, or I don't really know what happens with it that it doesn't work. So no, I mean, I am an all day smoker, and I went down to just one or two because unfortunately, maybe it was the medicine, or maybe it was, just not to get too gross for anybody, but just having all this stuff in me, maybe dripping down my throat a little bit, my stomach from now and then would start to get a little uneasy. And smoking weed is always just the best for any sort of uneasiness of the stomach, any nausea or anything of that. So was able to take care of that. But in terms of feeling high or anything, no, it just kept it all to itself.
It's a parallel. It's not the same thing, but when you were talking about that, I remembered anytime I do get sick or I catch a cold, I think they're spring allergies at first until the rest of the symptoms come in. So I'll take a Claritin D, and it's got to be something similar because I'll take the Claritin D on any day and I drive right up. But whenever it's a cold or the flu, does nothing to those symptoms. So I don't know what it is, which in the way that our bodies process those things, but it's like whether it's marijuana or if it's Claritin, it seems to only work when we're 100% healthy. And it's really bizarre how our bodies work that way.
It really is. I would love somebody out there to help try to explain it. I put the call out to my fans. Hopefully somebody on your fans would know too why exactly that is, what it is. I likened it to the body just kind of going, bro, we got enough to deal with right fucking now. Can you not try to get high as well? So maybe that's what it is. It's just a sensory shutdown of like, no, idiot. We're going to take care of you first and then you can get yourself high. But
no
it is
recreation,
the strangest thing. Yeah.
To anyone new to the podcast, the way we format the show is we're going to go through some news and headlines ranging from those things that we love. We have this year's podcast awards, and finally we'll wrap it up with this month's What's New on Netflix. So let's jump right into the first headline. Two fan-favorite cartoons are crossing over in an event titled, straight out of nowhere, Scooby-Doo meets Courage the Cowardly Dog. Scooby-Doo has been repeatedly revived. It just had that movie last year on HBO Max, while Courage the Cowardly Dog has remained in the late 90s, early 2000s, not really a revival. Are you a fan of either one of these pups?
Huge Scooby-Doo fan right here. The aforementioned Scoob, when that came out, bought that shit right away. Ever since Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island, it was one of their first straight-to-video kind of things. I remember getting that in my Easter basket. And since then, Scooby-Doo has been the best. I went back, I found Boomerang and went through them as a kid. And yeah, I very much like Scooby-Doo. And I really like this news, too. I hope I'm not cutting ahead too much. But in this one, we're going to get Matthew Lillard back as the voice of Shaggy, who played the live-action version. So I really like that because I really love Matthew Lillard.
I saw that when Scoob came out, there was this kind of pushback from the traditional voice actors of Scooby-Doo of like, no, don't go see that movie because they didn't even ask us to be in it. And it's one of those productions where the studio went, why don't we get celebrities to voice these characters? Because then their fan base, and we know that works, their fan base will come out and watch that movie because that said celebrity is in there. So this Scooby-Doo movie you're saying is not the traditional voice actor coming back for this project?
No, not the usual guy. It's Matthew Lillard. Greg Griffin is playing Daphne. I don't know if she's done it originally. I don't think any of the originals are truly back because they all look quite young to be doing it back then. As I'm looking at the IMDb.
Right. Yeah, maybe they're cheaper on this one, and I'd have to look and see if any of Courage's old voice actors. I don't see why they would recast any of them because that's a relatively new show, even though it's from the '90s. For the voice actors to not be around. You see it with Batman the Animated Series. They'll bring back Kevin Conroy every now and again, and Mark Hamill, of course. But this is kind of like a dream crossover. I remember on DeviantArt, on Tumblr, they do fan art of these two meeting up, and it's honestly one that I didn't see happening because honestly, who was asking for Courage the Cowardly Dog these days?
It really does seem to have slipped back into the cultural conscious, if you will. Like you said, it doesn't have any revivals. There's been no spin-offs. There's been no nothing, which usually happens. It was, and then it just was not. And now we are sitting where we are of just like, all right, let's make them meet Scooby-Doo.
This one is currently arriving on digital and DVD on September 14th. No word yet on when or if it'll hit on HBO Max, but I'm curious enough to check this out. The Courage the Cowardly Dog show, last time I checked, they're all on HBO Max, so it's one that I would love to. I did start to revisit it, and I was enjoying those early episodes. I sat down and watched them with Leo, my 3-year-old son, and it was a little intense for him, so I had to kind of stop him. It was a little too early yet. I figured if he could handle Batman the Animated Series, he can handle Courage the Cowardly Dog, but that wasn't the case, so I'll have to watch this one on my own.
I really do remember it not being scary, but just there was times where I wasn't scared, but I was just looking at it like, what the fuck is going on right now? Even as a kid and watching bright cartoons, I was even like, this is just a little weird right now. And not uncomfortable, but I have full on feelings of just sitting there going, I don't want to watch this anymore. Thank you.
Odd imagery. The one that I remember the most is Return the Slab or Suffer My Curse. And it was that weird 3D skeleton. It was kind of like a scarecrow a little bit. And that thing creeped me out as a teenager. And I know my brother was definitely freaked out by it. And he's the one who would watch that show. And I guess I should have thought that one through before I tried to show it to Leo.
Now, there's one other thing that I found on IMDb I want to get your opinion on. So, despite being the first feature film on Courage the Cowardly Dog, it will be the first official Courage project where creator John R. Dilworth will have no involvement. Kind of sucks.
Yeah, that's not cool. I don't know. I don't know how the Courage fans really feel about that. I'd have to really get one of them on and see what's going on with that. But it's not going to have that same charm then unless they handle it really well of let's have this weird, creepy character that's sometimes charming, sometimes scary. There's that fox that I remember always showing up in the show. And I'm starting to think now that you mentioned that, maybe it's just going to be a very simple current crossover where they take two villains that naturally would be from each world and then the two heroes, and then eventually they all team up and fight one another. Whereas I was just reading the crossover between Batman and Predator, and they treated that shit really seriously. They had the Predator going through and taking down people in Gotham, mobsters, and there was a whole sub-story with just the mobsters, and I'm like, they're really fucking trying hard on this crossover. And today, you don't really see that. You just they do it real simple, and that's fine, it works, but I feel like now that you say that, it's going to be that kind of project.
Yeah, I really hope so. The director is Cecilia Arnovich, and I just really hope she's a fan, because that's the only thing we can really kind of hope for then, is that she's a fan of everything and really will just do both justice and then cross them over well. That's all I hope for. Because even though, like I said, I'm not a huge Courage fan, it's definitely not as much as Scoob, but I like them enough to see hopefully both of them get more. I could always take some more Scooby-Doo.
We'll find out very soon, in about a month and a half. We do have some comic book news this week, which is a little bit more rare to hear these days, but things are kind of settling down, which is a good thing as far as distributors, and comic shops are starting, at least I'm starting to get into the rhythm of having 4 different distributors and needing to order on different days. But the people haven't slowed down, which is great. And according to ICV2's comic sales report, North American digital and print sales have accelerated since the pandemic closures. This led to a 6% increase over 2019, and they cited a continual rise since 2017. Comic stores sat at 440 million in 2020 against digital's 160 million. So print is still king right now with sales. All ages graphic novels and manga were a huge chunk of graphic novel sales too. I've definitely seen manga go through the roof as people find more anime on Netflix, and then Naruto was a huge example. That as soon as that hit Netflix, I had kids coming into the store asking for Naruto manga. So it's a huge influencer, and that's a huge positive. Did you expect this after the pandemic, a spike in print sales, or did you think people were going to move over to digital since that's really all we had when we were at home?
Oh, for sure, thinking that people would move over to digital. But at the same time, it doesn't surprise me as well, as I'm thinking, once some restrictions got lifted and it was like, oh, well, we can go, we should go. So at the same time, hearing that people are also flooding the stores just as much makes sense as well. I'm just happy it's going. I don't, as long as it keeps going up, as long as more people are entering fandom, like you said with the Naruto thing, like that's awesome to me, especially when it's kids, dude. Any reading is good reading for a kid. So if a kid comes in and they're like, give me Naruto, I'd give them all of them that they could hold, That's amazing.
Those are your future adults that are going to be viewing today's comics as nostalgia in 10, 20 years, and they're going to be your future customers. If you don't have that material now for kids growing up, you're not going to have those future sales or future projects that you can fully hinge on one generation of adults. So that's something that I wish and hope that the publishers kind of focus in on. But right now it seems to be manga, which is fine. I'll take, as as someone who manages a comic shop, I'll take whatever sales we can get. And thankfully, as you mentioned, we've kind of had this opposite effect. As soon as we opened up, we over-prepared to cutting down hours, cutting down employee hours as well, and just being bare bones at the start. And they kind of accelerated like crazy. TCG, Pokemon, Magic, all of that stuff were a huge factor, but also back issues and current issues. Even though there's like 25 titles right now for DC, people are like, well, I'll pick up whatever is on the shelf. I want to read something. And some people say that pandemic closures accelerated the trends, and hopefully that means that includes comic shops where the physical market is here to stay. I'm still kind of waiting for the bubble to burst or the other shoe to drop and we get to like a leveling out. But so far it's still a continual rise, and I'll enjoy it because it's the better outcome of the two.
Yeah, really. And I'm sure, too, as people are sitting at home binging, you have like The Boys on Amazon and Jupiter's Ascending on Netflix. Almost every single Invincible's on Amazon. All these things, kind of going off with the Naruto thing. Are you getting more people coming in like, what's more about this? Can I have more of these titles?
The Boys, absolutely. Invincible is fucking massive. Jupiter's Legacy did not take off, and I think they canceled after season 1. But Invincible, all the time, I have teenagers and adults coming in and buying the graphic novel. It's one that we carried since we opened because it is the owner's all-time favorite comic book series. He's read it for years and up until it ended. And it's a series that a couple years ago I probably wouldn't order myself for the store because there's other titles that sell more at that time than that one. But because the owner loved it, he's like, oh, always make sure we have this in stock because at the very least he knows he could hand sell it because he loves it so much. And thankfully we had all 30 something volumes in print. There's the compendiums in print. So when that show hit, we're still selling the hell out of these volumes, and it's doing really, really good for Amazon, I'm sure. But I'm happy that people, instead of going, oh, I love this, let me read the comic, and then swipe on over to the Amazon app and buy it on there, they're like, no, I love this, let me read the comic, let me go to my comic book store and buy it at market value and support my local shop because I love this show. And I that worked out great. As someone, I'm a huge critic of Amazon, but right now we're benefiting from that show.
Good. That's good to hear. I can't agree more that I'm happy enough that it's really starting to get out there that people are thinking like I should go to these places. Like, yes, in a pinch will I order from Amazon? Absolutely. But I've really been trying to put my money back into my town as much as I can
Mhm.
because that's where it needs it. Trust me. So to go to my comic book store and just lay down money on stuff I sometimes don't even need, it just feels good to be like, here, take it. Please don't fucking close your doors. Like, whatever you do.
Yeah, yeah, and I've noticed that too. There's been that mentality a lot more than ever. I have customers ask, "Are you guys doing okay? How's business? Is everything okay?" And it's a genuine concern. You know, 5, 6, 7 years later or earlier, I'd be a little more pessimistic of people kind of I always took that tone as like hopeful, like are you closing, like people like a disaster, you know, they love that. And but in this case, post pandemic closures, there's genuine concern for local businesses, and that's a great thing. And I'm honest with them. I'm like, actually business is awesome, and it's great, and it's thanks to people like you. So that kind of tells them that it is appreciated, you know, that they're not just like, yeah, they're coming in and they're doing their shopping, but they know they're seeing that it's physically helping. They're seeing the guy behind the counter, the people behind the counter, the people they know from visiting every month or every week, and that they're here to stay. And it's thanks to small sales, big sales, weekly, monthly, yearly, whatever. All of that helps. And I like that the mentality is we need to shop locally. We need to help the people in our town. It's huge. It really is. And I'm grateful that that's happened because I don't know about you, but I think 8 years ago, that wasn't really the case.
No, no. Even though I was in a different state, I would still say I'd went into the comic book store, and if I was the only, like, I was the only one in there,
Hmm.
not all day, every day, but to pass somebody in or out was not huge. And now maybe it's because I moved and the locale is different, though I can't really say that I believe that. I haven't been into my store lately, and there's not been somebody in there. Even if it's just one other person, I walk in there, I'm just like, holy shit, there's somebody else here. This is great. Last
Awesome.
time it was
Yeah.
a little kid and a dad, and they were just looking around. And I was like, yes, bring him back. This is great. Just buy him something. Just keep going.
Right. Yeah, we'll take it. And something that is going to help with this year's comic shop celebrations is Free Comic Book Day. It is coming back. We're not having it in May like usual, but a lot of states were still are very restricted on what they can have open. But they're going to have it on August 14th this year. And Coca-Cola will be, of all things, the official sponsor for this year's Free Comic Book Day. All marketing material and titles have Coca-Cola branding on them. I've seen the posters. It's up on the front door of my shop, and it's got a little Coca-Cola thing on there. And it's the first time that a major soft drink has been a sponsor of Free Comic Book Day. And I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, but it helps out Diamond Distributors, so be it.
Yeah, that was a great way to put it. If I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but it is what it is, and I am excited to see what it brings. Because I personally, maybe I'm just an optimist. I don't know. I don't think it's going to hurt. I think it's going to be good. You know, just more money put into it. It's going to help more distribution, more stuff, and more hype about it. And, you know, Coke's got the pockets. They can afford to do it. And personally, also, I like Coca-Cola. So, no, I'm okay with this.
Once again, that is going to be on August 14th. Make sure to check with your local comic shop on which titles, if you want to pre-order any Free Comic Book Day titles, if you have a pull list, ask them about it, because I know some stores, at least mine does, where they can pull the Free Comic Book Day books ahead of time. I know a lot of times subs are like, I work Saturdays, I can't make it in, can you put these aside? You'll see them in the previews catalog. If you buy the previews catalog, you can pre-order them right there months ahead of time, where they will drop some of these Free Comic Book Day titles and put them aside for you. So it's another benefit to having a pull box at your local store. So just a little pro tip to ask. Not all stores will do it, so don't don't demand it or anything, but some will, and that's something that'll help you out. Over to some Warner Brothers and Zack Snyder news, because that's the Reasons I'm Broke podcast. Longtime listeners know that it's something I'm really passionate about, and a lot of the co-hosts as well. I know you and I talked the Snyder Cut on your podcast and on this one in the past. Warner Brothers, they've removed Zack Snyder's Twitter art post. It was shared all over Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, of Batman eating out Catwoman. Warner Brothers sent a DMCA takedown, which ironically then made it canon, didn't it? Didn't that officially make it official if you're sending a DMCA takedown on it?
I'm not gonna lie, I'm ignorant on the term.
So that's basically they are the copyright holders of that artwork. Or if a DMCA takedown could be in podcast terms, let's say we were to start playing music that we don't own the rights to, the band or the label would send a DMCA takedown saying that that's our material, you need to take it down, and then they threaten legal whatever. So they can also apply to images. And this was an image that if you do an image search on what he put out, it doesn't exist. So this is something that he commissioned or a friend of his, or he drew it, or someone did. He hasn't said who, but by Warner Brothers saying they own that artwork, or at least the characters, it I think it makes it canon almost, because why else would you put a DMCA takedown on something that you own the rights to? So, okay, you own the rights to Batman eating out Catwoman, something that you said was not canon as a company, but now you're saying it kind of is by sending out these copyright claims. It sent the opposite message. I think it added fuel to the fire.
They really should have just let it alone. If they wanted it to disappear, it would have done it on its own. This is definitely bringing more attention to it. I just don't understand how they can have that power. Like, yeah, I get they own Batman and Catwoman, but it's kind of like what you're saying in terms of him doing a parody of it or finding the legal way around changing enough to figure it out. By them saying, no, this is ours, you're right. You're automatically bringing it into canon and saying that's what he does. And we weren't going to let anybody know. So that's really strange that they did that. But again, I can't believe they did anything. I would have really just let it be. You're getting attention. You're getting talk about you. And it's a fantastic photo. You just said you don't know who drew it, but my deepest hearts of hearts, am I really hoping that Zack Snyder drew that himself?
Right. Yeah. We know he's got some talent in drawing as well. And I'm sure we'll know eventually who drew it, or if it was him. That'd be fine. And I did see, of course, once he put out his opinion on it or put his piece, then it became a problem, because anytime Zach does it, then it's an issue. But if anyone else puts, all these comic writers and artists, they're pro, Batman eating out Catwoman, but once Zach is as well, then it's an issue. So that's a whole separate argument, one I'm not going to get into, but I just wanted to point that out, because universally everyone's like, no, it's cool. Warner Brothers, relax. It's 2021. We're not going to stop buying your toys or comics because of a Harley Quinn cartoon.
It just doesn't make any sense. As if like the hardcore nerds weren't already thinking like, because to be honest, when I heard about like Batman doesn't do that, and I was like, no, Batman does it the best. Are you kidding me? It's just another thing that Batman is better at. It makes no sense.
I think it was Trevor Noah or one of them that's like, well, that's the reason he doesn't cover his mouth on his mask. Like, he's ready to go.
Fuck yes, Trevor Noah. Oh man, what a great fucking comment. Yeah, dude, why don't you think I go full Spider-Man with the mask? I leave that part out for a fucking reason.
He's ready.
That's why my song is na 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 na.
Boom. Genius.
That's hysterical. Oh man, I'm gonna watch all of Trevor Noah now. He's awesome.
We got some more Zack Snyder news too, and that's in anyone that does not have access to HBO Max, we have some listeners internationally as well. The Snyder Cut has now gotten an official Blu-ray and 4K release. I know in the UK it is available. You can now buy it, but in North America, in case you don't have access to HBO Max or you want to support the Snyder Cut and you're saying, we want more from the Snyderverse, you can now pre-order both the Blu-ray, the DVD, and the 4K version, including the box set. On September 7th is when it releases, but it is now up for pre-order pretty much everywhere. Best Buy and Target for sure. The movie does include the Justice is Gray version, as well as some special features. However, Zack confirmed through Vero that Warner Brothers will not be letting him include the extended Joker scene in this release. I'm assuming the Green Lantern scene as well is not going to be in this. That's Warner Brothers' call. And it's one that are you going to be owning this on physical?
Oh, absolutely. I am a huge physical disc collector. I'm not going to lie. I own the Justice League. I don't use it, but it's there because I have to collect it. I would know that it's missing if it wasn't. So to definitely have all the versions of it on disc is definitely going to be something that I will be investing in. Not only that, I'm just going to buy a fuck ton of them and hand them out as party gifts too. Oh, it's your birthday. Here you go. Here's Snyder Cut for you. Because like you said, I want to make sure my dollar goes down into the I want more of this column by buying every single fucking one that I see. Like, I don't care if I have to help do it single-handedly. I want more Snyderverse.
Right. It is great that people are streaming it every day. Some people are doing it back to back to back while if they work at home. But another is voting with your dollar, getting out there and buying your copies. I did pre-order one of each. That includes the DVD, the Steelbook, the trilogy, the 4K, and the Blu-ray. So I've got 5 copies coming my way. And then once, that's going to take a chunk out of my wallet. But after that, then I'll periodically buy a copy and maybe do a giveaway at the comic shop or just have one handy to give out to friends, maybe someone that can't afford a copy. I don't know. I'll figure that out in September once that comes out, but I'm the same way, man. I want to really support this and keep buying more copies. I did not buy Justice League, so I can't make one of those Twitter videos that I've seen online of people burning it or crushing the discs. And then, now that they have their Snyder Cut version, and so that's one thing that I don't have the privilege of doing. But once those copies do come in, they have the Pedo Gun Suicide Squad ads in them, and then they also have the Battinson ads in them still. I don't know. Did you see those videos of people burning them and people freaking out over it?
No. So what you're saying is on the ones that they already have, they're promoting other DC stuff and people don't like that?
So they're promoting things that are not a part of the Snyderverse, the Hamadaverse. There's a little ad in there. So fans that like Zack's universe, they're like, don't put an ad for something that's not his vision, that you tried to replace his vision with, that you took him out of the universe to make these kinds of movies. Why would you put an ad for that in there? And it's corporate thought. It's not PR talk. You're right. They're just thinking, well, it's a DC thing, so put the DC thing in there. But there's no PR at all in this. So what people were doing, people in the UK, they got their copy, they saw that ad, and they would burn the ad on Twitter, and people had a fucking fit. Like, people that are wanting to see the Batman, they're wanting to see the Suicide Squad, and it's like, why does it matter? It's not your copy. It doesn't matter. Like, keep yours and frame it, whatever.
That's one of the fun things about seeing Twitter and all that. It's like, I'm mad that you did something to your own stuff. It's like, wow. That's weird. Why would you be mad over that? Just let them go, and that's what they want to do with it. That's what they want to do with it. It's amazing to me that somebody would be mad over that. But when you get your copy, you don't have to watch it.
Right. Yeah. You don't have to, or you can throw the ad away or whatever you want to do. And but it had that same effect, though, of Warner Brothers. They did the DMCA takedown on that picture of Batman and Catwoman, so people shared it even more because people had that reaction to someone burning, or not even burning. They just crumpled up the ad. So now a bunch of us are now like, okay, well, let's all do our little video of us crumpling the ad or destroying it or whatever. And again, has the opposite effect, everyone. If you give it a shit ton of attention, everyone's going to start doing it even more. And I'm curious if the US copies are going to have those ads in them too. But if they do, I'm ready. I'm ready to do those little videos. And I'm excited to own this physically. The Steelbook case, did you get a chance to check out the cover on it?
It's gorgeous. It is amazing. I have the Steelbook still from Man of Steel, and I put all my stuff in binders, so I don't have a lot of my cases, but that was one of the cases I was like, nope, cannot get rid of this. And I'm still going to go for the trio like you got too. I don't think those are all Steelbook, but I want one package with all from Man of Steel, BVS to Justice League, and that was also a really good looking one as well.
You said you keep yours in binders, so you're talking to like 90s CDs where you put all your discs in there, and you do that with your movies.
Yeah, awesome, I've got quite a few of them, depending on genre, and then some are TV. I just filled out my Power Ranger one. I am now an official. I have all the Zordon eras, so that's from Mighty Morphin to In Space, all in their fun little places. Yeah, I like to have them, and not only that, they're in alphabetical order. So whenever I get a new one, I got to move all of them because I'm an insane person, I guess.
I'm the same way, but with my Pokemon cards, with my binder, I have them in a certain order. And now I've gotten to the point where the collection's so big that I'm like, look, I'm going to be shifting these things every single time I get a card. So I'll have like a run of 3 blank pages in the middle. Like I'll go 4 or 5, have a bunch of blank ones, and then keep going. That way I don't have to shift them as much the next time. So I feel your pain, man. I do the exact same thing. I can't just throw it into the next slot out of laziness. It's got to have an order. It really does.
Dude, we are kin. I keep one at the front that's empty just in case I get an A or a number. I'm like, I'm not going to move all of these just for one of them. So I think I picked up 22 Jump Street at the flea market, and it was just like, whoop, right in. Didn't have to really worry about it.
There you go. That's perfect. And before we jump into some more movie talk, we do want to say and announce that at the time that you're listening to this episode, the 2021 Podcast Awards, the nomination period is back open for this year. We're trying to go for fifth year in a row that we're nominated, and we're trying to go for the second ever win under Games and Hobbies. And it's a unique situation this year because now it does include almost a different show with Paula Kelly moving on with her career and this slew of amazing co-hosts that you enjoy every week, Nick being a part of it too. So it can be it'll be fun if we end up winning, because I want to do something with like maybe a Zoom call with everyone accepting the award or something. I don't know. I still got to figure that part out. But first, we got to get nominated. So if you head on over to podcastawards.com, all you need is an email address, and that's how you vote. We're under Games and Hobbies, under T for The Reasons I'm Broke. And all month, if you have 5 minutes, head on over to podcastawards.com and click over to nominate us. Once the nomination period is over, then the slate of actual winners will show up. I think in August or September is when the ceremony is. Usually it's on International Podcast Day. But if you're enjoying the podcast, we do ask that at some point vote for us under this year's Podcast Awards. How would you feel if we win, Nick, as a part of a award-winning podcast, but to be a part of the year where we win? Would that be awesome? Would you flag that around all over the place? Like, yeah, I won a podcast award.
Oh, absolutely. I really do consider it an honor to be in the lineup that I'm in, not only being with you, but the fellow co-hosts and all that. I'm not just blowing smoke because we're talking right now. I really truly enjoy what you do. So yes, I would see a small little victory for me and the other hosts, but really it's you who deserves it. You're the curator, you're the man with the plan, and you truly do deserve it. But yeah, I'd scream it from the fucking mountaintops, man. I'm going to get all of my people to vote for you guys and do that too. I would be very, very happy for you and for everybody.
Got to give it back to you too, man. You guys provide the content and some great content as well. So we're gonna push. Let's go. We'll go for this year's and see what happens. But if not, always it's still fun to do this every week, and that's the important part. All right, let's head into this month's What's New on Netflix, the July 2020 highlights. First one on here is Mortal Kombat from 1995. You and I discussed the new Mortal Kombat movie, and now we get the first one, the 1995 one. It moved on over from HBO Max to Netflix. Are you going to be watching this one yet again this year?
I think I will. I don't know. I got through some of it. We were kind of talking about having stuff on in the background while working earlier, and that's what I did with this one. It wasn't a hard day of work, so I was watching. I'm kind of backstepping, putting my foot in my mouth, but I semi-watched it, and I was at the same point of with the other Mortal Kombat of like, this still isn't my cup of tea. I don't know enough about Mortal Kombat to be like, oh, that's that guy. I'm excited to see it now. So it was okay. I'm happy that it exists still, like almost everything.
My coworker and I were quoting the movie all day because I told him, I'm like, hey, starting tomorrow, Mortal Kombat, it's going to be on Netflix. He's like, yes, because we play it all the time, or we used to, at the store when it was on HBO Max. And we quote Raiden the most. I don't know why, but it's one that he just the actor randomly chuckles in between lines. And from what I understand, they're not a part of the script. So it's just funny how they do all these little things in the movie, and now we notice it all because of the multiple times that we play it. So it's got a soft spot in my heart, and I really do consider it legitimately a good movie. So I don't know. I'm going to be watching it on Netflix. We're going to be playing it some more. Another one on this list. Are you a Moonie at all? Sailor Moon Crystal, the remake from 2014.
No, I didn't even know that there was a name for them, as in Moonies. Like, that's interesting to know. I just learned something cool, but no, not at all.
I learned that one from Millennial Mike when he was on, and I'm like, all right, that's a thing, a Moonie, okay. So it's not bad. It's it's a love story. So I know Kelly really likes Sailor Moon, but it's a decent remake. It kind of cuts out a lot of the fluff from the original show that ran in the 90s, where they couldn't really figure out how to make because two of the Sailor Scouts are gay, but when they had the translation in the US, they made them cousins instead. So when they got to that part of the anime or the manga where they were more affectionate towards one another, they couldn't really do that in the US as far as like reanimating it or anything. So from what Paul Kelly told me, they just stopped the show when it got to that point. But with Crystal, it's like, all right, let's do this properly. And it's the manga fully animated. So if you're into that, if you're into Sailor Moon or manga, it's all hitting Netflix. It's moving from Hulu over to Netflix. Adam Sandler with Spanglish. It's what I consider one of his best movies. Are you an Adam Sandler fan?
Oh, sir, I've been looking at this list and I was like, all right, Mortal Kombat, Sailor Spanglish. I am a huge Adam Sandler fan, but it has nothing to do with why I love Spanglish so much. I think that he goes kind of counter to his normal Adam Sandler. So if you are out there listening, and you're like, oh, Adam Sandler, I'll show up for one of it. I wouldn't consider it an Adam Sandler movie as much as for once he did some acting. He showed up and he tried to play a character. And I fucking love this movie so much. I just showed it to my wife for the first time not too long ago. I very much like it. I got very excited there. Sorry.
And because of this movie, Taya Leone, I always view her as like a jerk, even if she's in other things. I'm like, no, she's an asshole. I think she cheated on Adam Sandler's character in the movie, from what I remember. And so it's one of those that she did a great job, awesome performance, so good a performance that now I'm like, no, she's not a good person. She's a jerk. And but I like her. I liked her in Family Man, I think is what it was called, with Nicolas Cage. But
yeah,
you
I just showed my wife that too. Hell yeah, I fucking love that movie as well.
It's good stuff. I want to show that to Kelly, but she can't with Nicolas Cage. She really can't. Not even Matchstick Men. And we tried watching that, and she's like, "He's just a weird actor." I'm like, "Yes, but this is like toned down in a way." And it's weird, kind of parallel to Adam Sandler with this one too. What you think of Family Man?
Oh, I love it. I feel like if you do show it to Papa Kelly, you will get lost because the first thing he does is like scream opera. And she'll be like, no, you lied to me. It's still just big, outlandish Nicolas Cage with him going, ba, 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 da. But no, I would say just get through that. And once he meets Don Cheadle, shit just starts popping. I fucking love that movie so much. I think really about that all the time. I mean, in a way, I think that it captured my imagination because it's a fucking Flashpoint paradox story.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like, oh, you had one moment, and now this is what it could have been, and this is where you are, and I'm gonna let you go live in the paradox for a little bit, and I love those types of things.
And it has a very bittersweet ending. Good stuff. If you haven't checked that one out either, I don't know what it's streaming on, but to the Broquette on the other side, make sure to watch Family Man as well as Spanglish. Terminator 2 hitting Netflix, one of my favorite action movies of all time. So you know, there's no one that dislikes this movie. I'm convinced of that. There's no way. And if you're a younger Broquette, you got to watch Terminator 2. Even if you haven't seen Terminator 1, watch Terminator 2. It's one of the best movies you'll ever watch.
Firmly, yeah. I don't believe you need to see Terminator at all to understand, because I don't remember seeing Terminator before I saw Terminator 2. I remember it so vividly. Shout out Alex Romanowski. I was at his house. I wasn't allowed to rent it, but we went to Blockbuster, and I was like, do you think we'd be allowed to rent that? And his mom didn't give a fuck. She was like, yeah, sure. And we watched it, and like, it was insane. So not to give too much away, but this Terminator is more liquid metally, and he could change into stuff and stabby stuff. And that just, again, it got my imagination so hard when I was a kid, especially when he walks through the bars in that one scene. It is so trippy, and you would not believe it's as old as it is. I think it holds up to this day very, very well.
Yeah, the special effects are incredible. Just out of curiosity, how old were you when you first saw Terminator 2?
Oh, boy. Do you remember when it came out?
92, I believe.
You're right. So, fuck, what was sixth grade then? How old are you in the sixth grade?
Let's see. Yeah, I guess I would have been 12 because, I've been 11 or 12. Came out in 91.
It must have been then, because Alex didn't move till the sixth grade, and we were still at Harding. Yeah, no, it had to have been 12, 13 years old.
And you said your parents wouldn't let you watch Terminator 2?
No, I wasn't allowed to watch violence. They didn't care about cursing as much. So, but the violence they wouldn't fuck with. Especially, like, I think the scene that really bothered them was like he's on the phone with his stepmom, but it's not his stepmom, it's the Terminator. And the husband comes up and he's like, what the fuck is that dog barking at? And she points her finger at him. And then later on, off screen, like it's off screen. And then later on, we come back to it and it pans out and her finger has become a really sharp object that has gone through the milk carton that he was sipping and through his eye. And now blood and milk is just sporing out. And that's where I think they would have probably gone, I don't think so. You can find something else.
Yeah, we had very different parents because And I don't know, maybe it was a generational thing because they sold Terminator 2 toys, not collectibles, not things that were made for adults. They sold toys, action figures, just like they did Predator and Aliens. So they knew kids were watching these things, and I was one of those kids. When we went to Mexico City, I was really young. We sat down as a family and we all watched Terminator 2, and I thought it was the coolest fucking thing. It did not traumatize me. And I figured the one that would be when Arnold is, and I know it's not his human skeleton, but still, when he's cutting his arm and you see the family react negatively and he pulls off his fucking skin and you see the robot arm underneath it, it's still pretty graphic. And I'm just like, different times, I guess, because I know I wouldn't show that to Leo today.
Yeah, and then I just looked it up too, and I hate to throw my poor mother under the bus. I'm over 30 now, so everybody doesn't have to call anybody. But she took us to see Scary Movie in theater, and I was 10 then.
Maybe because it was a comedy, a parody. I don't know.
It was a comedy, yeah. But when you think about that too, some guy does get his head impaled by a dick.
Oh, that's right.
That's where I was like, all right, maybe. But yeah, at the very end of the day, I don't know. She tried to do her best. I don't think I'm as fucked up as I could be. But yeah, now that I'm looking at both of these times, that I'm like, fuck, if I had a kid and they were like, show him Scary Movie or T2, I'd probably show him T2.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's that giant bush joke in Scary Movie. There's a lot of sexual innuendos that go above and beyond that. I don't know.
The fake breast thing at the beginning that he was like, oh. Another one hitting Netflix is the Karate Kid trilogy. I was kind of surprised that wasn't already on there since they have Cobra Kai and they've been running with that for a while. The Karate Kid trilogy, my downstairs neighbor, when I was in first and second grade, we would watch the first and second one, and then I saw the third one when I was a teenager, but it's not one that I went back to and rewatched a million times, but I know the Karate Kid trilogy does hold a special heart in a lot for a lot of people.
Not for me, however. That was, kind of similar to what you said. I did have a friend who was like, do you want to watch this? And I was like, okay. And we watched it and I said, okay. And I do believe that was the one and only time I was over it. I did watch the remake. I don't know why, but I saw that once as well. And still nothing. I got no love for that.
That was the one with Jackie Chan, right?
That's why I watched it. I'm a huge Chan fan, but fucking the little Smith kid, Jaden Smith, got it. And God, does he whine throughout the whole thing. And it's tough for me to watch. I couldn't do it, even with wanting to watch Jackie Chan.
Do you at least get some cool Jackie Chan stunt work in it?
No, not like we're used to. You know, I'm just assuming that we watched all the classics growing up and just watching Jackie Chan being awesome. And no, not a lot of that. He's the master now, and he's a little old, and he's not supposed to be as spry as he was supposed to. I guess I don't know.
Pass. Thanks for the
Yep.
Another trilogy hitting Netflix is Underworld 1 through 3. This is with the Lycans and the vampires and the werewolves and mainly Kate Beckinsale, I believe, in tight leather because it was during that period, post Matrix and all movies, whether sci-fi or comic book, you needed dark leather, including X-Men. And that's kind of where I left it, to be honest with you. It's one that I know my buddy really liked that trilogy, and he would go on and on about it, but I think he was more about Kate Beckinsale than the story.
Yeah, I find this enjoyable. It's in the DVDs aforementioned. I don't believe any of them are new. I really like the flea markets for dollar movies. I'll pick up almost any movie for $1. But in terms of the Underworld, it lost me, and then the third one brought me, which I believe this one was. So I really remember, out of all of them, I remember the third one the most. And I think there's a fourth.
There had been talks of a fifth one, I believe. Doesn't she end up getting, having a kid with the werewolf, or am I misremembering these?
Yes, that's exactly what happens. Like, her husband is a half-sea. He's half vampire, half werewolf. And they do have a kid, and I thought he was dead, and that was the thing around the fourth one. I can't say with 100% certainty, because again, I know I saw it at least the once, but it was one of those ones where it wasn't worth seeing again, and I must not have seen it for $1 at a flea market to pick up the DVD and give it a second watch.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, they kept making money, though. I remember that much. And one that I don't know, oddly enough, I watched a lot as a teenager was the Robin Williams starring What Dreams May Come, very much like Spanglish. It's not a traditional Robin Williams movie. Have you ever seen this one?
Dude, it's funny because like I feel like we really are becoming even closer friends during this episode. Because weirdly enough, when I was a teen, I also had like a really big obsession with this movie. And when you watch it, it is not a happy Robin Williams movie. It's not as creepy as 1 Hour Photo. It's not as sad as Patch Adams, but it's not uplifting or it's not, hey, look, I'm being all funny. I don't want to give it away, but when you see the tones, and then especially like at the very end with Cuba Gooding Jr. and stuff, you're like,
Mm.
why did you like this as a kid? And you're like, I don't know. It was just entertaining.
Yeah, I don't know why that captured our attention so much, and I think it's the idea of, and this isn't spoiling the movie. It's kind of the concept of you have your own heaven when you die if you're a good person or whatever, and whatever the rules are. I forget in that movie, but it's for him. It's his wife's paintings, I believe. So that's his heaven, and each person kind of has their own. I think that's what fascinated me the most because it brought something new to the idea. Because you would think a lot of people ask like, well, what would be a heaven? What if someone hates, clouds and skies or whatever? So it kind of weirdly enough answered that question and provided really neat visuals to each person's world.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was a great way of putting it. And that would hit a nail on the head of like, for once we went past fluffy clouds and cherubs and what is that? Choral music like the and it's just what would your heaven be? Because you're right, you might think that heaven is a nice, cool 78 degrees. And I'm like, 78, that's hot as shit. No, I want it to be a nice 56. And so to kind of set up your own thing of what you're going to do. And especially I think the other thing I liked is he had to deal with his own death in that way too.
Yes.
Just it's just not the same for everybody, and it'll be like your life was, your afterlife will be different than everybody else's, and just a really different spin on somebody who grew up Catholic. Like there was only one way to think about it, and this was different, and maybe that's why that was a good fucking call, man.
What would your What Dreams May Come heaven look like?
Oh, it'd definitely be air conditioned, that's for sure. Because if everybody's going through the heat wave, as far as I know right now, and it's just warm all the time. Massive amounts of screens everywhere playing stuff.
Nice.
I like Big Macs a lot. Yeah, I mean, it really, imagine a fat stoner's heaven, and that I could go for the stereotypical fat stoner heaven and just be absolutely happy.
I figured your answer might have been, and it kind of, I guess it could be in a way, but like a Kevin Smith universe where you can go to the clerk's shop and you can go to, the
Oh my
secret
God.
stash or something.
That would be amazing. And like more so though, it's not like Brian O'Halloran and Jeff Anderson. I go in there and it's Dante and Randall. I'm just like, what's up? And they want to be my friends. And we just fucking make fun of people. And then I go to the mall. Yeah, dude. Fuck yeah. I vote for that. Yes.
And you can see Stan Lee in the mall. All of it counts. All of it would count. It's like a good way of cheating. Like, no, this is my heaven, so I get to see all these people now.
That's amazing. Yeah. Especially with all the cameos he gets at the end of Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back and then reboot too. Fucking A.
All of it counts.
I like how you know my heaven better than me. What about you?
Oh, man.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but I was curious.
I mean, I was thinking about it while you were giving your answer, and I don't know if I have a pinpointed one because I would want my family and friends to be there, and I don't know what kind of way to circumvent that because that's one of the problems in the movie where he can't be happy if he doesn't have his wife there. So that's like a huge issue, and so if those same rules apply, I would have to somehow get them included in here. But if I had no friends or family or whatever, I'm just going strictly for fun. I mean, right now you'd have to ask me. I'd kind of want to be in Batman the Animated Series a little bit. Like when they first years ago they announced these 3D glasses things that you can put on and you can virtual reality explore the Batcave from the animated series. I thought that was the coolest idea, and I would kind of want to do some of that in this What Dreams May Come heaven because that'd be neat. Like, yes, there'd be crime, but there'd also be all these adventures that I can see in the animated series. So that's my nerdy answer. That's what I'm going with.
Love it.
Another one on this list here is Resident Evil Infinite Darkness Season 1. It is a quote-unquote Netflix original. I don't know if they themselves produced it or paid for it or if they're just getting the rights to air it in the US. But I have liked the Resident Evil animated movies that they've released in the past. This one takes place in between Resident Evil 4 and 5. Resident Evil 4 being my favorite game of all time, so I've got to continue the lore and I've got to see Leon Kennedy continue to be a president's right-hand man. Did you
Yeah,
happen to catch the trailer to this one?
oh, I apologize. No, no. Resident Evil is another one of those things. Not that I'm like I don't like it, but I remember seeing the first movie and I was just like, nah, I'm okay on this. And I never really kept up with anything since then. Sorry.
Yeah, they do pretty well with their animated ones because they are produced in Japan, so it kind of keeps I think it sticks closer to the lore, which is always nice. So if you're a fan of Resident Evil 4 and 5, I'd say check this out, especially if you already have Netflix. And a Quentin Tarantino one coming our way is Django Unchained. This is the one that a lot of people feel Leonardo DiCaprio should have won the Oscar for. Infamously, he has that scene of, and I don't know if it's been confirmed yet, where he smashes the glass and cuts his hand. And I believe that take was real, but when he's picking all that glass out of his hand and he smears that blood in the actor's face, I don't know if that was real as well, or if they went, okay, well, let's work this into the scene and use it. So that people are like, he smashed his fucking hand and cut his hand on screen and kept going with the take. Give him the fucking Oscar. They didn't give it to him, but he eventually got it. Incredible movie, though. That aside, amazing performances in it.
Agreed. It's one of my favorite of Quentin Tarantino. It's hard to watch though every now and then. Not for just the language in it. I don't want to get too deep into it, but I hear that word and I'm just like, I can let's not, even though I know what he's doing with the movie and all that, I'm still just like, ugh, it hurts to hear that much. But I love the part with Jonah Hill. That's one of those ones where I was like, where the fuck did that come from? And they do it so great. Anytime I watch the Klan get shit on, I'm fucking happy with that.
I know Quentin and Zach are friends, so I hope that at some point they do something together, whatever it may be. It'd be kind of neat to see. He's one of the guys, I believe, that he showed the Snyder Cut too. I got to go back and go through his Vero timeline and find out, but it's a good one. Like you said, though, it's not easily consumable as far as content. It's not one that I can sit there and watch as many times as, say, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which is, it's violent and it's a little crazy, but it's not as heavy in the content and themes as Django Unchained. And I believe he's working on he had announced a sequel to it with Zorro and Django crossing over. So at some point, it sounds like we're still going to get at least that project.
But I also read that if whatever his last one is, whatever his next one is, will be his last one.
Oh, that's
I don't
right.
think that's true, though. I really don't. I think, a lot of filmmakers say that, and then they have a really good idea, and then they're going to want to do it. If you ask me, I'm not going to, live and die on that, but I do believe it won't be his last one. He's, in my opinion, one of the most naturally gifted filmmakers of his age. You just that's what you do. You know what I mean?
And he said that years ago too, of I'm only going to make 9 or 11, whatever that number was. So at this point, he's a whole different person anyway. So he's probably like, he could at any point, once he gets to that number, be like, no, I think I'm going to make some more. Or he can bullshit it and say, well, what I meant was in this Kill Bill universe, I don't know. He can exclude any one of these if he wanted to, but honestly, no one's going to complain. No one's going to go, oh yeah, you said years ago, that's bullshit. No, you're going to get more fucking Tarantino films. Like, who cares? We all win.
We all win when there's more Tarantino. Absolutely.
Last one on this list is one that I think is going to work this time. It's another reboot. The last one didn't seem to do too well, and I think they were hinging it too much on toy sales. But now it's coming back. It is Masters of the Universe. It lost the He-Man title in it. They're going straight with Masters of the Universe Revelation, Part 1, which are the first 5 episodes. One of your favorite people of all time, Kevin Smith, is heavily involved in this and in the comic book tie-in. How excited are you for this?
Oh, like you said, he's one of my favorite people. And not only that, being one of my favorite people, he knows a lot of my other favorite people. So he was like, hey, Kevin Conroy, why don't you come do this? Hey, Diedrich Bader, why don't you come do this? Mark Hamill, why don't you come do this? And of course, Jason Mewes is going to be in there. Justin Long, why don't you come do this? So all these people that he knows are in there. And then on top of that, there's so many fucking great people in it. So Henry Rollins is in it. Phil Lamar is in it. Kevin Michael Richardson is in it. Those are just some of the greatest voice actors. I know Henry Rollins is Black Flag and he's an actor, but his voice acting has really, in my opinion, been higher up than that. Susan Eisenberg is fucking in it.
Nice.
And then as I'm looking now, he's got some Game of Thrones people in there, some Liam Cunningham, so the Onion Knight, if people don't know, Lena Headey, who plays Cersei Lannister. I'm just looking at this going like, holy fucking shit, it just keeps going. Excited is not even a word. And I have no love for He-Man. I didn't grow up with it. It's always like what I've been saying this whole episode of, I'm not shitting on it. Like I hate He-Man, but it never came across and stuck on my radar. This time, I think it just might.
You and I are at about the same age range, and for me at least, it was before my time. It was something that people in their 50s, the customers that I interact with, people in their 50s are like, oh, I can't wait for He-Man. I grew up on that, and I watched it, and I loved it, and I'm excited for this one. So I think we're just a little too young. We were too young for it, and we were growing up on Power Rangers and Batman and TMNT. So I think that's all it is, to be honest with you.
Very much agreed. Yeah, it was the original was already out and done by that point. And I do remember what you talked about. There was something in the middle. I had forgotten about that. But yeah, I really only remember just seeing the toys. I remember once catching the movie on TV and I was like, okay, this is weird. And I don't think I went back to it. But anybody who wants, it is free on YouTube. I did see it not too long ago on YouTube. I'm sure it's still there.
I'd be curious to check it out just for the neat special effects. I remember that being a part of it. And this time, I don't know. I don't know how they're going to measure the success of Masters of the Universe this time, because there was, I think in the early 2000s, that revival that they tried to do, and the toy sales were not there. We live in a completely different era. It's more about collectibles, I think, than it is toys for really any major franchise out there. So in this case, it seems to have captured the adults' attention. The comic book tie-in, I know I ordered really high on the issue because people were subbing to it like crazy. They were excited for the comic book too. So maybe they'll look at watch numbers. Netflix never makes those available, but if it does well, then great. I'm definitely going to check it out. I'm excited to see what Kevin and the rest of the crew do. You mentioned that cast list. I'm like, this is it's everyone that's ever been on Fat Man on Batman, pretty much. They're all his friends, like you said. And I think because of that, the fan base of Kevin Smith and the fan base of He-Man are all going to collectively, it sounds like, at least check out the first episode. So they're on the right track for this being another big Netflix hit.
You just brought up, and I don't want to shit on Fat Man Beyond, but I miss Fat Man on Batman, the original incarnation where it was just him and one other person who's worked on Batman. And
yes,
I remember those, dude. I had just gotten the job at the cabinet company, and I just ran through them, just sweating my ass off, but just sitting there like, now you all know Kevin Smith's a big old fat man, but did you know his favorite hero is Batman? Like, I loved that opening so fucking much, and you just said it, and it all just popped back into my head really quick. That was great. He should kind of maybe do second episodes with everybody and sit back down. Again, no offense to Mark or what they're doing now, but it was a completely different beast.
Fully different show, absolutely. And I ended up unsubscribing, I don't know, about a year into Fat Man Beyond, or what I think at one point he was calling it the utility belt, and because he just had all these, it was a different show, like you said, and Mark Bernardin just, his opinions and mine don't align, and he was always out there with them. And I was like, oh, well, where's Kevin Conroy? Where's Paul Dini? Paul Dini was on for like 5 episodes. Those were some of the best conversations right there. And yeah, it's too bad that they haven't gone back into that direction, but obviously what he's doing now is working out for him. And I'm assuming that he's having a more fun that way. But you're right. I do miss original Fat Man on Batman. Those should be like archived episodes somewhere for fans of, the animated series, the Timverse, Green Lantern, Justice League Unlimited, all of that stuff. It's great material, great content. I think even Andrea Romano was on at one point, and that's another amazing Timverse cast. So yeah, you're right. I miss that. I miss Fat Man on Batman.
Yeah, as a part of the Kevin Smith Club, I do get those backgrounds and I go back to them, and just the Kevin Conroy one is special to me. I don't want to, it's your pod, I don't want to take up time, but it's got that moment there's a moment in it that just touches me as a human being, where I'm just like, wow, somebody else might understand a little bit of what I went through or I'm going through. And podcasting's great. And that was a great one. I'm sorry to get you so off topic, but when you said it again, I couldn't get that theme out of my head. I was rocking with it.
Is that the same one where Kevin's talking about his alcoholism? Is that the same episode? He's talking
Yeah,
about his upbringing. Yeah, that's a good one.
yep, that's the nail on the head of him just trying to, he said he had alcoholic parents, and Kevin was like, "Oh my God." And Kevin, well, this is so weird with two Kevins, and Conroy was like, "No, it wasn't like that. It wasn't like that at all. I had a happy childhood. It's just you figure out a way to escape somewhere."
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, wow, maybe that's why I fucking like comics so much and shit. Like that was my escape into a world of just, it was revolutionary. And I just, again, banging in drawers with a hammer, just silently crying to myself, like, I get it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's one of the most intimate that Conroy had ever been, because normally he's talking about Batman. It's very rare that he's talking about his struggle to get to where he is now and all of the different acting gigs, all the stage plays that he enjoyed to do. So great stuff. If you can go back and check out those early ones, you're absolutely right. And yeah, kind of off topic, but if you are a Kevin Smith fan, or even a Batman fan, most of us here are, definitely check out those early Fat Man on Batman, the Kevin Conroy episodes. Absolutely. But that is the last edition for What's New on Netflix. As we mentioned, these are just the highlights. If you want the full list, there's a ton of it, a full list online. But this is stuff that I know I grew up with and that you also grew up with. What Dreams May Come. I'm glad you had seen that one, because it would have been, it's unless someone else has seen it, you kind of really understand it. And really, oddly enough, that we were both as teenagers sitting there watching this serious, kind of semi-depressing Robin Williams movie.
Yeah, I really do find that funny indeed. Because you can't explain it without giving it away, too. So if you haven't seen it, it's just like, all right, I can't say anything. Just watch it.
Right. Exactly. But that does it for this week's episode, Brocat Core. Nick, we had mentioned Buds Bros and Superheroes. Why don't you let the Brocat Core know what that show's about, where they can find it, and where they can contact you on social media?
Thank you so much for that opportunity. Super much appreciated. So right at the beginning of this episode, we started talking about marijuana, and that's one of the 3 foundings of the show. It's called Buds, Bros, and Superheroes. So Buds is all about marijuana. A little sneak peek at a little something. I might be actually getting involved in the industry. We'll see. I have to come over to my channel to see if it actually goes all the way through. But we do reviews. We just kind of ask fun questions. You and I have done stoner thoughts before. In the bros section, it's a little bit even less structured, of just bullshitting and hanging out. And then the superhero stands for itself. I try to mix it up. We reached really far, and we talked about Jackass once, and then Harry Potter. So if you're not into like hardcore superheroing and you want to spread a little bit more too, like we go a little bit everywhere. I try my hardest. But we're all over on YouTube and Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, everywhere that I think you can. We're on the Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all of those things. I can't thank you enough for allowing me that little pitch. Thank you, Daniel.
Absolutely. And there will be links to everywhere you can find Nick, including Buds Bros and Superheroes, in the description of today's episode. So you can always come on back and go back to the description, swipe on over. You will find all those links on there. But otherwise, I do want to remind everyone that the Podcast Awards, once again, podcastawards.com. And also this week, patreon.com/thereasonsimBroke. If you want early access to the episodes every single week for just $1 a month, that equals out to about $0.25 an episode, you get early access to the show every week. So that's on there through a special feed at patreon.com/thereasonsimbroke. Otherwise, for a place on everywhere you can find us, head on over to thereasonsimbroke.com. At the very bottom, you will find links to social media. And I want to thank Nick once again for being able to be a part of this rotation of co-hosts. And as you've all heard, he's a pro podcaster. He's a natural. He does this every week as well. So thank you once again, Nick, for coming on this week.
Thank you for the opportunity and for the kind words. It literally always is an absolute pleasure. So thank you again, Dan.
And Brocat Core on the other side, thank you again for joining us as we went through sector number 463. I've been Daniel, and all will be well. So you mentioned you might get involved in a little bit in the industry of of the green, as you put it, right? Traveler of the green. And what do you hope to do and learn as you get more involved in the industry?
Definitely hoping to get in at the ground level here and maybe just start bud tending a little bit. But from what I learned, they have not only their own stores, but they also grow. The thing about marijuana right now, at least with the medical in our state of Pennsylvania, is you got to sell what you grow. So we can't buy outside weed and sell it in Pennsylvania. So that means all the groweries and dispensaries are really close to each other. So I really, truly, honestly hope just to learn about everything, because once it goes federally legal, which I'm going to guess is about 2 years from now, they're going to be everywhere and it's going to be much harder to break in. So I'm hoping this is the right shot for right now.
Are you going to become a pro roller and get it real tight? I don't know what you can tell. I have no knowledge of this, but like, are you going to, will you get to practice those things when you become a bud tender? Is that what you called it?
Yeah, that's what they're called right now. Unfortunately, again, with the PA medically, the way it's going is we don't have any product outside. Like if you were to go into, let's say, Colorado and be like, "Oh, can I see this weed that I'm about to buy?" They'd be like, "Yes," but the PA Department of Health, we all go in buying blind. You can't really show it and stuff like that. But hopefully, again, once all those bans get lifted, or once it's federally cooler, hopefully the state will loosen up and we could start to do that, because my rolling skills need some fucking help, dude. I can't roll a blunt to save my life. And I mean that. Like, put a gun to my head and roll that fucking blunt or I'll kill you. I'm fucking dying, dude.